Mhm. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Elliot Hayes. This is the sequel, if you like, to the Making It Happen workshop that you've either attended or you either accessed through the DVD or online or however you've come across it. This is the webinar to access literally about a month after you've done that, gone through that process of the original training. And it's really a check-in to see how you're going. The main purpose of our webinar here is firstly to review your progress, secondly to update you on a few finer points of things you may have asked about or wanted to clarify from that original training, and thirdly to inject you. And by inject you, which would be a pretty cool idea to be able to do that online, but to inject you with a further enthusiasm on wanting to make things happen. So if you're online with this webinar now, you're more than welcome to post a comment and I will endeavor to answer it as we go. You should have that panel next to you where you can see that. I always get frustrated when I'm on a webinar as a participant and the person takes ages to get cracking, so I will not do that and I'll start now. First thing I want you to be aware of is, for us, what has changed? Since you've done that original training and looking through how to make things happen, time has moved on where, as we record this, the financial year is just finished. And the question is, what are you doing differently? Or more specifically in our language, what have you actually tested to see if something could work as a product, as a service, as an iteration, a combination, a change to the way you offer what you offer. And we covered briefly in the program what's your goals, and I think we tried to keep it to 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and really it's a bit of a battle. And the battle is between where you want to be in 3 to 6 months' time. Let's say 6 months as a definable, fairly short-term time frame. You've got a 6-month period, and you've got maybe an idea of where you want to be in a 6-month period. And now look at how you do things now. And the question is, who's going to win? The habits you've got now, will they take you to the point you want to be at in 6 months' time? Or will they win out and 6 months will arrive, we'll hit the end of the year, and really nothing much will have changed? So be very, very specific in what you want to achieve in those short-term periods, and then get absolutely enthusiastic about making it happen. However, this is not a motivational workshop, so let's do some more specifics on that. I'll remind you of something that I covered with you in the session. No idea is more important than what you're currently doing right now. And just getting a message here. So I've muted you, Helen, so you can't talk to me right now. But there's no idea more important than what you're doing right now. And I do this when I work with clients in a consulting way, one-on-one. We always look for the lowest hanging fruit. I had one client who was going to set up a whole different division of websites to represent the different aspects of what they did. And in the end, strategically, he vetoed that idea. But even before that, I'd canned it as something that he should do, because it was just going to take him off a tangent that wasn't going to make him money. It was going to take too long. So the first thing to bear in mind is, particularly with people who are in business for themselves, or if you're in sales, we're highly curious people. We love something new. And it's so easy to see that beautiful idea, a bit like if you are in a very wonderful relationship and then you meet a beautiful woman or a beautiful guy, very handsome guy, sorry, I think of women, handsome guy, and think, oh, gee, they're a nice person. They'd be really, and you get attracted to that. But everything looks more attractive when you don't have it. The grass is always greener on the other side. So be aware of that in your business. Coming out with lots of new ideas, don't forget that process to filter those ideas through and decide what you're going to do now. and preferably choose ideas that align in some way with what you're already doing. So for example, if you're already making wedding cakes, I would not suggest you start adding the service of cocktails. I would say, well, how can you make other types of cakes that are at least some kind of cake, but maybe a different theme that tests your design in a different way? In my case, we'd run a lot of training programs, and at the same time, we also try and capture them. We also try and film them and so forth to turn that into a product that we can use as well. And the point there is we're running the workshop anyway. So the filming of it is really incidental, but it becomes valuable down the track. So try and, in terms of leveraging your time, if you have a consulting session with a client, see if you can record it and then have that transcribed and change the details that are private that have to be respected. But the information and the content that comes out of there, the ideas you're putting forward in that consulting session, see if you can then use that as part of a manual or a product down the track. But just don't get too distracted by the shiny new toy. All right. So if you want to make things happen, get in the habit of making offers. So the other day I bumped into a friend I haven't seen in maybe 12 months, and I saw him in the market, and I just happened to say as a side point, what's your website address? Because he was telling me about the new phase of his business. And his side comment was, here's the address, but yeah, it's not very good. It needs work. Maybe you could help. Now, that's not actually the business I'm in. But if I was in the business of working on websites, the first thing I would have said was, listen, I'll help on that. How about I have a look and come back to you with a few ideas we could try? And my point being, if you're looking out for opportunities to make an offer, to ask, to email, to call, to present, to write a letter, ask, you can't help but find it. In fact, it could be a good litmus test for you. Look at the last week and look through in your day-to-day work, how many times have you actually made an offer to a client? Not waited for them to call, not waited for the people to ring up and say, let me give you all this cash for your service or product. How many times have you actually sent out a message via the medium of email, via the format of a direct mail piece, a phone call, a presentation, a webinar if you like? When's the last time? How many times have you actually asked them something, made an offer of something? Hey, would you like to try this? And make it, there is an art to making an offer, there's no doubt about that. But you know what? That is all down the track, things to work on. It starts with asking. I was interviewed recently for an article for the Herald Sun, and it was about negotiation. And the question that the interviewer put to me was, what is the one thing that you would suggest people need to practice if they want to get good at negotiation? That was kind of the question she was asking. And I said, it's really easy. Ask. Get in the habit of asking. No matter who you're talking to, where you are, get in the habit of asking. And it's absolutely amazing what happens when you ask. And in fact, I would actually suggest you want to hear more people saying no. And that might sound a little counterintuitive, but the more no's you're getting, the more your activity of asking is increasing. So it's axiomatic that if you start making more offers, asking more for more deals, more things to happen with prospective clients, you'll get more no's. But it always worries me a little bit when people don't get many or any no's. It tends to suggest, usually it's not that their offer is so amazing everyone says yes. It's more that they're not asking enough people. So use that as a bit of a test for yourself. In the last week, how many times have you actually made an offer of some kind? And that puts you on the front foot. There's an energy to making an offer. You get things happening. You say, hey, how about we try this? And you've got to practice doing it well via the written word as well as via the spoken word. But it starts with getting into the habit. Ask. Now, what that tends to lead to in a nice way is it creates a deadline. Because if you ask enough clients or enough prospective clients with some kind of offer, then what tends to follow is someone will eventually say yes. And guess what? Then you've got a problem. You'll have to get it done. And it's a funny thing, but you're more likely to keep a promise you make to your customers than you are to yourself. And I got to tell you, I'm exactly the same. A promise I make to my customers, I have to deliver. If it's to myself, then I can talk myself out of it anytime I want. So when a deadline, the actual term deadline, that phrase deadline, comes from in the American Civil War when they had prisoners. They didn't have jails that were fantastic, well locked in jails. They often had wooden sheds that they were keeping prisoners in. So they would put a railing up and they would say, that is the line. If you go past that, we assume you're trying to escape. That's the dead line, literally, dead line. But I guess it had a catchy sound about it, and it became the phrase to describe when you've got to get something done by a certain period of time. And I just know, in productivity terms, you work a lot more effectively, a lot faster when you have a deadline. If the deadline is imposed by yourself, on yourself, that is not always so great. If the deadline is something you've promised to get to a client, that's better. Something you've promised to get to someone else where you'll feel bad or look bad if you don't deliver. That's a better deadline. So deadlines are very important in making things happen. And as I say, it's better if you can get a deadline that is something you've promised someone else where there's some kind of consequence if you don't do it. Otherwise, if you're the only one vetting yourself, telling yourself off, it's not quite as effective. All right, have a look at this. Prioritizing. Prioritizing is simple. And what I'd suggest is create a definition of what a high priority really is. Here's one example. You could say, in my business, that which will make me the most amount of money is what I will do next. So I had a period 2 weeks ago where I was insanely busy with lots and lots of things happening, all good problems to have. And it was very, very easy to prioritize. At one point, I had 15 minutes to get a proposal in. I had a camera crew waiting. I had a workshop about to start. I had something else coming from another one of my staff members. It was all coming at once. And it was incredibly easy to prioritize. I had 3 or 4 proposals to do at the time. The one I was working on was that which would make the most money. Because in small, medium business, I know I will have some people say to me, well, yeah, but what about that which will give you the most brand value or that which will give you the most long-term strategic gain? That's all good. But in small business, cash flow is the issue. So I'm going to do what will make me the most amount of money. That doesn't mean I neglect longer-term strategic things. You plan for them, you make time and so forth. But I got to tell you, when you're clear on your priority and the definition of what a high priority is, it's incredibly easy to then say, no, that'll have to wait. And it'll help you manage the guilt by not getting it done. There was 2 things I had to put off on that particular day I'm referring to. And I wish I'd got to them, but I had to put them off. And the one I did get done was the most important one, the most potentially profitable one. Now, of course, if I got a phone call during all that saying, listen, Elliot, one of your children is really unwell and you've got to get to the hospital, well, then again, it would have been even easier to prioritize because I would have said, okay, I would have dumped all of it and headed over to the hospital, hightailed it to the hospital. It would have been simple. So I'm not saying that money is the only priority. I'm saying in your working life, with you getting cash flow happening for your business, whether it's small or medium or large, then there's a lot of problems that can be solved by having cash flow. So making that your priority, and if you have a new product, a new service you're bringing to bear, your priority should be getting that first sale. From a cash flow perspective, a motivational perspective, a momentum, something's happening. I meet some people, they take so long to get the product out there. They're still working on it. They're still trying to do all these things. It's too long. Get some customers. Get their feedback. Get things happening that's sending a message out there. Next point. This is something I still see a lot of my clients not doing very well. So I'll give you an example. they might, I go on a new website. Let's say they type in, here's a good website, findtime.com.au, and they look at that, and this is actually my website, so I'm biased in showing you. I click on resources, and I go, oh, that's interesting, and I click on that. And when I'm there on Grab It, which I do think is a good tool, I look, I wonder, I follow, check Facebook. And there, that's interesting. I'll just, and you see how this link within a link within a link takes you on to so many different directions. You need to batch. It's a critical time management skill, but it's still something I see people easily dismiss as just, yeah, whatever, I'll get to it if I can. So have periods of time where you are doing email, and that's what you're doing. Have periods of time when you are doing phone calls, and that's what you're doing. The template I gave you at the workshop, and I'll just bring that up here. So this one here, to-do list, there's the date, there's the question there, the main goal I want to achieve today is to get clear on your focus. And you would adapt this to your type of work, but I've broken it down to the main types of activities most knowledge workers or office workers do. Phone call, email, admin, things I have to write, whether it's proposals, articles, whatever, any voicemail messages for the day, and then any logistics of things I need to pick up or drop off and so forth. And the point is, having that stretched out, I used to have it just on one long list, A4 paper, top to bottom, and it became just a blur of words, and I would waste time rereading it to try and find out what was the thing I had to do next. So batching by getting that, okay, here's my calls to make, here's my email. You could even, if you have a very, very busy life, you could actually put some of that thinking into your voicemail message. I think I might have said to you at the workshop, I've got a couple of clients where it's appropriate for them because of their changing nature of their day. They'll leave a voicemail, they'll create a new voicemail message each morning, which will say, hello, I am in meetings from 9 till 12. The best time to get me on the phone if you want to talk is between 12:30 and 3:30. If it's not urgent, send me an email at this address. If it is urgent, call me on that time frame. Have a great day. And what it's doing, it's doing two things. It's managing the expectations, but it's also encouraging the other people to help you batch your activities and your tasks. And the benefit of batching is just that it saves time. So going back to our PowerPoint slide, that's the last point I'd make to you. Batching is critical to helping your focus. That example I gave before where we're all over the shop with our websites, all over. It gets very, very distracted. And it's not hard for you to get frustrated that you're not making much happen, but you're losing the time. Now, again, if you have any questions as we're doing this particular webinar, please just write it down on the panel you've got under the chat section, and I will get through all of them. And if we need to, we'll get you online so we can hear your voice. But if you want to write it down, that'd be a great start. I would say I love to hear your queries, your issues, your challenges anyway. So please go to findtime.com.au, go into the contact section and send us an email. You've got my email address probably. It's eth@findtime.com.au. Let me know how you're going, because when we have webinars like this, we'll feed that, we'll integrate that feedback and those queries into these kind of webinars. Time to test. Okay, so here's a few examples. A free report. This will sound familiar. Print ad, flyer, customers, existing customers, interview, Google ads, Facebook ads, discussion forums. I'll just take a couple of those and break that down a little more. So let's say I would like to have an interview with someone about, I'll just go in here, about podiatry, for example. Podiatry. So I could look in here and try and find, there we go, there's association. That'd be a good place to start. There's the council, Melbourne Sports Medicine Centre. And you can simply ask them, listen, I would love to have a chat with you about how to do this, or about a few key questions that have come up. If you're not sure what kind of questions, going to Amazon.com, podiatry, and podiatry. This is an interesting phrase. Why you really hurt, it all starts in the foot. I've got to say, the Dummies Guide to, if there's anything like related to it, a little bit of everything. Well, this is getting interesting, isn't it? How to become a foot care professional, that's a different type of thing. I'll go back here. Why you really hurt, it all starts in the foot. And if I click on that, that's what I want, the table of contents. Now, I haven't done this before, so I'm just spitballing here as I go, but look at some of the topics it's raised. Problems. Do you really have nerve damage due to diabetes? Corns, calluses, bunions. Interesting stuff, isn't it? What goes wrong? The point being, it gives you a blueprint from which to ask questions that are relevant to that topic. And if that didn't work still, then there's a good website called guru.com where you can go there and hire freelancers and manage projects online. Find people who know this stuff, who are happy to be interviewed. The point being, and I've had this myself, when people ask me to speak or be interviewed or whatever else, provided it's not too time intensive, you really want to do it most times. It's something you're very happy to do because you want to spread the word, and if you're interested in the topic, and get it out there. If you want to try a Google ad, and I would suggest, see that report, as I said to you last time, that is the foundation of it all. It can be used as an article to post online. It can be used as a report to give to others. It can be used in so many ways. But if I want to do a Google ad, there it is. This is not my normal account. This is a test one I use when I'm demonstrating these kind of things. But if I go into a new campaign, a couple of little points here. Now, Google is a great place to test out an offer or information or a product or a service, just to see, are people interested in it at all. But it gets very confusing when you try and place an ad. I don't think I covered this in detail when we last met. But you see here, the search and display, it gives you options there. Now, I would always keep it separate. So either I have the search network or the display network. And I'll start with the search network. The thing that you go in and type hello John and see if there's anything for hello John. Test for podiatry. Search network only, and Google search network, and you'll notice the devices, yes, available devices. This is the thing I really want to get to, is the location. So what you could do is do an advanced search, and this is particularly for those that have a service where people need to engage you face-to-face, or a product where they need to call you. Do some radius targeting where you say, look, I'll just have, let's say, Beaumaris, Victoria, Australia. Look at that. And you can say, and it generally does miles, 20 miles around Beaumaris. So anyone around the Beaumaris area, that radius, anyone in that area typing in certain keywords to do with podiatry, they're the people who are going to see my ad. I hope that makes sense. Just add that. And I don't really want Cranbourne, but you get the point here. That's going to be my area around there. Done. And I can set a budget. Don't worry about these other things for now, ad extensions and so forth. That's all a little more advanced. Set a budget and get something happening. When you set up the ad though, offer some free information to really help with the health of your foot. And again, back to our, if I still have it up, back to some of these things, because some of these things give information or give inspiration for the kind of words we would use in our ads. What causes arthritis in the feet? It's a good thing to do to actually ask a question, and you could say, I would consider using something like that in our Google ad, and then say, look, click here and find out some more information on on the key answers to this important issue. I mean, I'm making that up. I'd be a little more useful and efficient with the words. Facebook ads, that's a whole other portion I won't do now, but if you want to know more about it, let me know. But I got to say, your existing network, that means the people you know, they're the people to say, listen, what do you think? Try it out. Try it out. Try it out. Ask, ask, ask. All right, moving along here. The written daily or weekly plan. And first thing is review what you have done yesterday. What didn't get done that needs to be carried forward. The second thing is look ahead, tomorrow and beyond, and what's coming up you need to be prepared for. Check your commitments. What am I locked into today? Where do I have to be? What have I promised? Where am I going to absolutely, where do I have to make myself appear? Where do I have to get transport to be by a certain time and so forth? And then make your to-do list. And I'd encourage you to use that template that I gave you as a way to encourage batching of that to-do list. And then prioritize it. And the priority is really driven by your main goal for today. What is something you want to make happen that will feed into making the 6-month goal a reality? And the last one, the biggest reason I see people not really fly with these kind of ideas that they think could really work but not really make them happen, is they don't book in time for those tasks and activities. So schedule it. Back to your calendar. I go to my Outlook here. Let's say I've got my week here. This is just a test calendar I use for training. But if I look at that and I go, all right, interview specialist on podiatry, call them on, apparently I can't type, blah, 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 and then start having a list of questions. And it's locked in. If it's something that's just for you, that you make a note for yourself. Record tutorial on how to save time when using Google Apps. And it's locked in. Lock it in. When you have an appointment with a customer, a friend, your mother, your client, you keep that appointment. When it's an appointment with yourself, treat that with the same respect and gravity. And don't go for long time frames. It doesn't have to be something that's, because that's going to put you off. Just look at it. Make it something that is just 30 minutes long. And it's there, so it's a digestible period of time you can do it. So going to the last one. Thank you. I hope this has been useful as a short, sharp reminder. I'm very happy and keen to hear the questions that come up from you as you test these things out and try your new ideas, your new products, or reinvigorate your existing products and services and get them out there. But if I had to pick one point from the whole webinar that I think would really capture it, it's simply ask. Make an offer. Make an offer. Don't worry about the strategy and technique behind that for now. Just get it happening. And if you pay attention to the reactions you get when you make your offers, you will start to refine how you do it, the time frames, the way you present it. Those are all things you'll work on, but you cannot practice in a vacuum. You need to try it to really get some feedback on what resonates with people and what doesn't. Mark Burnett, the producer of Survivor, calls it the lean-in factor. And in other words, when you're telling someone about your idea, how much do they lean in and want to listen, or how much do they go, oh, yeah, whatever, sounds good, but they're not really that interested. That's the thing you've got to test, folks, and I wish you the very best of luck as the year speeds ahead. Talk to me via email, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.